be amazed at the touch of the black man. Ooh. I bring life.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
Thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Opera GX is here to revolutionize your internet experience with customizable browser mods. Oh, by the way, Opera GX told me to get rid of the anime waifus, so you get to see Spider-Man. You might say you can do this with other browsers. Well, I'm too lazy. How do you like that? That's why DoorDash exists. Yes, I need little clicking sounds while I'm stimming the appropriate Spider-Man music to make mine nothing more heroic. If for some odd reason you don't like Spider-Man because you're obviously mentally deranged, Opera GX has you covered with a multitude of themes. You can choose from anything from Valentine's Day to Christmas. Oh, well, that really helps when you're sad and alone. Did I mention that Chrome's a resource hog? Well, I don't need to. We already know. Opera GX isn't. And if it gets a little too greedy, you can use the GX controller to limit the resources it has while you're gaming or doing other naughty things. As we all know, women and Zoomers are addicted to social media, and Opera GX has you covered too with the integrated sidebar. Everything from WhatsApp to TikTok, you can't stop. If you like what you see, use my link below to download Opera GX today. Sweet Baby Inc. is the successful feminist frequency. That phrase alone should fill you with dread. For those that don't remember, Feminist Frequency was a major player during Gamergate through the Tropes Against Women video series hosted by Anita Sarkeesian. FemFreak may have failed as a company, but it succeeded in changing the face of gaming into the diversity and inclusion mess that we all face today.
No one's ever going to say that self-deletion rates in males jumped drastically after Gamergate because no one wants to admit that it didn't help anything and made gaming a worse and more toxic place. I guess everything just has to be inclusive, and things that are made for the masses is homogenous and not specialized to a certain niche group, therefore making the art diluted and less impactful or meaningful, and removed another safe space for young males to go, to bond, and feel that they have solace or a place to belong, somewhere where they could feel value, or escape the harsh realities of being a male. Oh well, guess I'll take HRT.
Stop him!
Where everything has to be politically correct. And gameplay for most AAA titles is an over-the-shoulder walking simulator / interactive movie with at least one girl boss character with a half-shaved head, or a role for a Deborah Wilson where she plays herself and microtransactions out the wazoo.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Sweet Baby Inc. is a name you've heard a lot of recently after the launch and subsequent failure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Harley, no!
Worth it!
By the way, did you know that Shark King is now queer? If you make fun of the game now, you're a bigot. Constant Shark fans rejoice. DC strongly implies that King Shark is queer in the Arkhamverse Kill the Justice League canon.
The dumbest article I've ever read. Okay.
Within 2 weeks of launching, the years-old Batman Arkham Knight now has more congruent players on Steam than Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. In fact, one of the members of Sweet Baby Inc. that used to work at Rocksteady but now switched up had a little bit of a meltdown on Twitter due to the backlash of the game.
She got mad at IGN.
Kevin was our teammate, and many of us worked with him directly for years. I would expect game journalists to know that and understand how callous it is to use his memory to stoke hatred. We do not need strangers to tell us what he would have thought. He told us himself. A lot of fans are hopping mad about Batman's role in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and rightfully so. Here's why Kevin Conroy's Batman is wasted.
One of the few times in my life I agree with IGN. Conroy was wasted in Suicide Squad, a bland looter shooter with major focus on microtransactions.
Bleeding edge technology innovation. Loot boxes.
With a splash of a trash story to boot. By the way, bad reviews are being deleted off of Steam as we speak, and people have been wanting refunds. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Refund search requests have risen by 761%.
I'm so mad they killed a billionaire who turned evil that I'm going to show how racist I am. Is honestly pretty funny take to have.
This is fine.
Ricky over on Twitter pointed out when Suicide Squad launched, the developer and Sweet Baby Inc. was doing victory laps because...
After 11 years in the industry, I finally did it. A black character on the front cover of a AAA game. A dream come true, y'all. And Kim doing the clap emoji. So glad you were present to help mold his character, Kim.
Basically, Sweet Baby Inc. was behind turning Deadshot into a black guy. What a surprise, because this woman literally can't do anything without seeing herself in every damn thing.
So when I was small and starting to kind of express myself creatively in either writing or stories or art, I wrote about myself a lot. And I would put myself into a lot of art, into a lot of narratives.
Nothing has changed!
Also, this is the first black character on a AAA game if you're willfully ignorant. The problem with these hyper-progressives in every sense of the word is they have to pretend that everything they do is the first time. Disney does it with their first gay character like almost yearly at this point. And if we look at gaming, there's countless games that have black characters on the cover. What the hell is he talking about? Nothing that matters. Just something to say online so that someone who most likely cares only about virtue signaling and researching nothing will sit there and go, yes, we're breaking a glass ceiling. And this just dropped today.
Warner Brothers admits that Suicide Squad and the Justice League has fallen short of our expectations.
We're not going to read the whole thing,
But from day one, the game was critical disaster. It hoisted a red flag by not sending out review copies, but when the dust settled, it had a 60 on Metacritic, a horrible score for a AAA game, and one that has led to lesser studios being shut down entirely.
And if this kills off the modern Rocksteady, well, you know the Joker said it best.
Get what you
But even before then, we've been subjected to the machinations of Sweet Baby. We just didn't know it at the time. For instance, they were part of the God of War sequel, obviously the God of War 2, which explains why Angerboda, the frost giant, was randomly black, and Kratos had a lot more dad energy. As a man who took great interest in Norse mythology, I found this move to be beyond the pale in terms of stupidity.
It's like, you know, when they made Marie Antoinette black on Netflix. It just doesn't make any sense.
Sweet Baby was also involved in the making of Spider-Man 2. It's probably one of their bigger IPs they got a hold of in recent years. While playing the game, I found the dialogue to be laughably bad at times and cringe-inducing at others. Mysterio having a DJ mission for Miles Morales, because that wasn't racist at all. Mary Jane with her giant chin and her John Wick mission simulator that the director defended.
Let's talk about the MJ missions a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Because you made her like the most OP character in the game. Let's just get it out there.
She's OP.
One-shot everybody.
She's OP. I knew that those missions weren't the fan favorites coming out of Spider-Man 1. We knew we had to make her more of a proactive, capable person. And if she's a little OP, I don't give a shit. It's important to have her be a capable hero. You know, this might sound cliche or whatever, cheesy, but like you don't need to have powers to be a hero. In the original plan, she wasn't a playable character in the last mission, but we thought, hey, can we get all three of them working as a team in that final mission? So at the very end, she's there. But yeah, she's OP. She's probably OP. I don't care.
He's gay!
That's right!
I'm Mary Jane! I'm Mary Jane! The incredible Mary Jane! Get out of here! You know who I am? Unstoppable! There. She's OP. She's probably OP. I don't care.
Hey, those missions you hate? Well, they're back and Mary Jane is a hero. Suck it. The Deaf Girl Simulator mission, and I know I hear PlayStation fans in the background going,
You can skip it.
it shouldn't be there in the first place. It's a Spider-Man game. That's the issue. Peter Parker just being a doormat for everyone in the game. Then at the end of the game, Peter Parker is out as Spider-Man for mental health leave, and Miles Morales is now going to be the star of future Spider-Man games.
I got this. All of it.
I'm not even going to talk about how they goofed up the Puerto Rican flag with the Cuban flag. Now, what makes that mistake funny is how Insomniac has a diversity and inclusion video where they talk about the importance of the Puerto Rican culture, but somehow they got the flag wrong.
It's very important that the media portrays Puerto Rican or Latino culture accurately.
Oh no! What happened?
Who and what is Sweet Baby Inc.? CEO Kim Blair and COO David Bedar, the CEO does all the groundwork,
We're a narrative development company. Every service we offer plugs naturally into the game development as opposed to being siloed strictly into the narrative team. Narrative direction, narrative design, script writing, brainstorming, and narrative development, narrative production, pipelines, cultural consultation, and casting. Sensitivity consultation.
Basically, when they say that, like you bring them something, they look it over, and then some person who isn't qualified to flip fries for you tells you if they find it offensive somehow.
This wording could be triggering for some people who suffer from the trauma of being told no.
Type of energy. This was Anita Sarkeesian's wet dream outcome for Feminist Frequency, but ultimately she failed. But FemFreak did get a few gigs talking to game companies about meaningless HR BS PowerPoints such as these. If we tune back to 2018.
Anita just started her temp consulting gig at EA. Hopefully, the shitlords don't get triggered too much. Ha 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 ha. Can't wait to shoot Nazis as a queer black woman with a cute pixie cut.
But after a few years, EA and other companies were onto her grift and stopped hiring her. As a result, a few angry tweets from Anita Sarkeesian became a common thing on Twitter whenever money for consulting popped up on the feed.
Sorry, what? EA is donating $1 million to a nonprofit working to end bullying online and harassment? Some facts. They didn't speak up during Gamergate at all. FemFreak has been a nonprofit on the front lines of this issue for years, constantly struggling with funding.
That's because you offer nothing of value. That's kind of how capitalism works.
Hey, CD Projekt Red, I'm always available for consulting, because it sure sounds like you might need it before the whole of the internet drags you for what sounds like some potentially sexist representations, which we all know you've struggled with in the past. Video game designers, let me help you avoid these types of mistakes. I want you to make a greater game you're envisioning while appealing to a broader audience, and that includes not offering the entire art market segments. Good lord. Stay away from CD Projekt Red. Look at what you did to BioWare. You ruined their games.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
I don't know why you are involved in gaming sphere when you don't even play games. So stop giving advice and visiting game studios because you make everyone uncomfortable.
Obviously, Feminist Frequency went bankrupt, and the rest is history.
As for today's episode, my guest is the amazing Kim Belair. Kim is the co-founder and president of Sweet Baby Inc., a narrative development company that she established in Montreal to help companies tighten up their stories. Prior to that, she worked at Ubisoft, where she started out in community development before finding her calling in writing scenarios. And it was there that she got to work on numerous projects such as Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Far Cry 4. Right now, Kim has a lot on her plate, but she loves keeping busy and is a strong champion for inclusive narratives.
And gay. And being a black woman during the hyper-progressive swing of 2020, odds are helped a lot too. She said herself, companies set aside money for black creators, even if they had no direction or ideas.
We had a lot of people who were saying, hey, we're going to give portfolio reviews to black writers. We really want to do that. And we also had, places going, okay, we're going to put this fund here, even if they don't necessarily have a plan for it.
I'll try that oven thing again. Seemed like a pretty good idea.
But to gamers, the name Sweet Baby now is literally linked to the phrase narrative poison, with an odd focus on white male gamers, because they're the root of all the world's problems somehow, I guess.
When we look at these white guys who are supposedly our core audience, I kind of want to imagine that as consumers of a lot of different products, they also want to experience new and different stories. And I think we need to step out of this rule that all white men lack imagination to the point that they can understand and enjoy aliens or monsters, high fantasy, dwarves, anything, so long as it's through a lens that looks like them. Because ultimately, if that's the kind of person that you decide you're going to work for, that's the kind of person you're going to design for, you're never going to innovate your work. And
as a result of the failure of Suicide Squad, and this video making the rounds on Twitter, gamers figured out who was pissing in their soup. So Sweet Baby did what any hugbox company exposed for ruining a beloved gaming franchise would do. They locked every public account and made sure you could never, ever comment on them, even on videos that are years old. You filthy little bigot.
But I've always written stuff ever since.
She is stunning and brave.
On September 27th, Sweet Baby did a live stream called Baby on Board, the Sweet Baby Inc. story. Much like Madam Web, this was an origin story no one wanted or asked for, but here we are.
Development company, and our goal overall is to tell better stories. We want to make stories in games better. We want to tell them better. We want to help teams understand, the complexities of narrative design and how they can tell better stories. And we also want to make them more innovative, more inclusive as kind of part of that.
The explanation as to what Sweet Baby Inc. is and the word salad that encompasses this entire company reminds me of the phrase, too many cooks spoil the broth.
The very idea that gaming needed help being more inclusive is laughable, as gaming has always been a hobby for the socially dejected and social outcasts, long before it ever became mainstream, and had to be in tune with the modern audience.
Which translates to, we need to make the games more accessible for emotionally stunted humans in a permanent state of arrested development, with a splash of gender pronouns and a little bit of neurodivergency in the mix. Thanks, TikTok.
If you go to their webpage, it reads like you'd expect.
Founded in 2018, Sweet Baby Inc. is a narrative development and consulting studio based in Montreal.
All the lamest people come from Canada.
Working around the globe. Our mission is to tell better, more empathetic stories while diversity and enriching the video games industry. We aim to make games more engaging, more fun, more meaningful, and more inclusive for everyone.
But nothing can be inclusive for everyone. That by default makes absolutely no sense because not everyone is interested in the same things. Gaming itself is a small fraction of the entire populace. I don't know about you, but it seems like the more inclusive gaming has gotten in the last few years, the more boring and repetitive it's become.
I'll start a very long time ago, eons ago, well, maybe a lifetime, in 2018, a time we all barely remember. So to kind of give you, the origin story, I'll give it from my own perspective, is that I started out in the industry in 2013, and being a Black woman in the industry, being a marginalized person in these spaces has not always been easy. In fact, it's been downright abusive at times, and I'm sure that no one in this room is surprised to hear that, but there is so much abuse, so much toxicity, so much awfulness in the industry, and that was how I kind of came through it for the first several years of my career.
Your schedule victim segment. As a man who enjoyed the early 2000s, let me tell you something. People today are so easily offended, it's hard for me to believe anyone when they say, this person is a racist or a misogynist. To your average progressive, who you vote for determines if you're a racist or a misogynist. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna press X to doubt on this. But then again, when their web pages have certain segments like this.
Representation. We believe that representation is key to connecting players and audiences. And we offer a few ways to help your team and project gain the perspective needed to make it happen. We're a part of an inclusive and knowledgeable community of diverse consultants able to cover a wide range of cultural and sensitivity topics.
Jesus Christ, let's be more sensitive.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get emotional on YouTube, but this is just sad, you know? It's like when you see a puppy who has cancer. It's just as sad as shit, you know what I'm saying, YouTube?
Our approach leads with the creation of joy in marginalized players. I'm marginalized and I hated Spider-Man 2. How do you like that?
Me and Miles have a lot in common. I can't stand his ass.
And seeks to be additive rather than strictly corrective.
Yeah, the same approach has been happening to the country since 2020, and things have never been worse.
We do cultural consultation. What the hell is that? Sensitivity and inclusive reading?
What is inclusive reading? Do you read porn to the blind?
Risk and opportunities assessment and more.
I gotta Google what inclusive reading is later because I'm not doing it right now.
Sweet Baby Inc. Is actually derived from the fact that we worked with a lot of different teams in previous times, and every time we worked with someone who we really vibed with, or we really felt like, okay, this is really, really going well, we would go like, wow, they were such sweet babies. And when we started Sweet Baby, we said we only want to work with sweet babies, and
we only want to work with sweet babies. That origin story for the name totally makes sense with the way this company is. A whole bunch of hugbox adults able to just spread their progressive toxin into games and make them even lamer than they already are. You get to tell me that Tomb Raider was from a bygone era of bigotry. Thanks, Crystal Dynamics. The last Tomb Raider sucked ass. In this clip, she plugs her GDC representation panel from 2022. So, I checked it out. Obviously, comments and likes are disabled. Notice a theme?
And I'm the co-founder of a little narrative development company called Sweet Baby Inc. We do narrative development in games and kind of beyond, and we try to... And I would put myself into a lot of art, into a lot of narratives, and I put my family and people who look like me in all of these cool scenarios. And I was telling all these stories where I got to see myself, I got to see people who look like me. And
to say that this was boring is an understatement. It is a 29-minute video of self-congratulatory wankfest, where she proceeds to break her own neck to lick her own lady bits.
And suddenly, for the first time in my life, I got told that the stories that I was writing and the things that I was creating for and about people who resembled me weren't not real stories and they were not right stories. And this was to the point that I received a list that I'm sure many of you have received that was, here's a list of authors and stories that are legitimate. Here's a list of people and stories that are important. And as you can imagine, they were, mostly men and almost exclusively white.
These poor bastard kids had their whole life ahead of them.
Within 2 minutes of the video, you've noticed a theme. She talks about herself, obviously, and how she pretty much wrote stories about herself up till high school. When someone pulled her aside and said, read Catcher in the Rye, like every high school student has to do at some point. And she took offense to this, like Michael Jordan.
This was an opportunity for innovation. Here we had the chance to make a woman who has been victimized see herself in a game, be able to express something to another woman in a game, and kind of actually relate to it. And we had that opportunity, but instead we pulled back because we thought it was safer not to push forward.
Wow, what a waste. The poor children.
My assessment of her GDC video panel? 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. 2020, the worst time of our lives, unless you are a race hustler or an equity grifter. Most women in the gaming sphere and social media loved 2020 because it was basically hand over fist free money. Even Darkside Phil was making thousands of dollars a month in 2020.
What happened to the Vestreak money? It went to pay for stuff, genius. Bills. Back taxes.
But once it was clear that having a sensitivity team or workers that only came into work once a week didn't boost productivity or sales, the whole idea was out the window for most companies. That's why we're experiencing the mass tech layoffs.
Remember when Netflix almost made a show called Anti-Racist Baby?
Now often have found other jobs. We had a lot of people who were saying, hey, we're going to give portfolio reviews to Black writers. We really want to do that. And we also had, places going, okay, we're going to put this fund here, even if they don't necessarily have a plan for it.
Like I said, 2020 was free money for certain groups of people. How do you set aside funds for people in the gaming industry with no clear goal? That just sounds absolutely asinine. That's exactly how we ended up with all these people that were BLM members and leaders that were buying mansions or laundering hundreds of thousands of dollars into their own bank accounts. And the news sort of ignored the huge issue there.
It doesn't make any sense. Any fucking sense.
I always describe it as kind of like feeling like a little bit of a heist team, like in a Fast and Furious or an Ocean's movie, where you're like, okay, I've seen this problem before. I've seen this on Project A, and now I'm going to apply it to Project X. Oh, hey, this colleague, you worked on Project B. Can you come over here on Project Z and use that expertise? And it started creating this space where like we really did feel and do feel like a collective more than just kind of a writer's room.
At this point, they pretty much confirmed that they basically do the same thing over and over and over again. If they encounter some sort of issue while working on the game, they just get someone who worked on a similar issue and go, hey, go over here and do the thing you did before so we can get around this. That doesn't breed a sense of confidence in me when it comes to Sweet Baby. That tells me more often than not, the tropes and themes they cover probably repeat themselves endlessly and verbatim. And my God, does this woman talk? Like literally, the white dude said something for a whole 2 minutes in an hour-long video almost. It does have a question spot at the end, but the second the first question came in was like, How does a person with neurodivergency get into the gaming industry? I immediately tapped out because I knew I was only going to go down a rabbit hole of listening to humans that have more issues than Vogue pat themselves on the back while crying that they're a victim, yet they're also a hero. I ain't got time for that. I hate It's a Gundam. He's very masculine.
What does success look like? And to me, I'll be honest, success is our team relaxing more. If we have in a world where we are more successful, to me, that doesn't mean that we work a lot more. It means that we might have bigger or cooler contracts, but I hope that it means that we get more rest, that we get to have a little bit more clout, and also the ability, and when I say clout, I don't mean like, wow, we're going to be swinging our power around. I mean, no, we're going to be able to say, hey, I think there's a better way to work, and have some people listen to us.
More clout, huh? Oh, you got it all right, honey. Gamers now know you guys are behind why most of the stories in their favorite games are now raw dog shit. And you all decided to hide your profile. Dude, people were so mad about Suicide Squad, bro. They review bombed these guys on Google. It's kind of funny. This is their game plan overall. Force diversity till people are at the point of diversity fatigue. That's where we are now. Diversity for the sake of diversity, if you will. When you do that, it breeds resentment in people. Personally, this is my thought process, but when things are just pushed into people's face so much, it gets an opposite reaction. You know, it's like the Streisand effect. We're sitting here trying to tell everyone that they're bigots and they're racist in 2024 when that isn't the case. The only thing you do is stoke the flames of racism.
Diversity. Sweet Baby brings with it a kind of diversity rarely seen in the industry, and as such, a range of perspectives too often ignored. We are additive in our approach to diversity and try to put a focus on joy and innovation, which we firmly believe are the most important facets of good representation. Game studios must evolve and change, and we're at the forefront of narrative's next step. With Sweet Baby, diversity isn't a band-aid or a knee-jerk response. It's a meaningful growth.
The problem with these sort of theories is you treat your audience like they're children, that they cannot connect with anything unless they see themselves. Batman isn't a minority, but I can totally relate to him. Guts from Berserk, the same. Majima Goro from Yakuza. His fall from zero makes perfect sense to me, and I can relate. I'm not Japanese. Nani? Watashi wa? It's a Gundam desu? You know, like for real. But I'll explain why this is later. Even on their page where they show off their team, their major focal point and talking point is how diverse it is. Frankly, if you want to sum up Sweet Baby, diversity, 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 inclusion, diversity. That's like the word you will find the most with them. By the way, they seem to have worked with every major gaming company in the West. And I'm sure, much like me, you can't help but wonder,
why? 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 Why?
In 2024, honestly, all the issues they say are in gaming just seems made up. Gamers are disgusted with being preached to, more than anything else. To pretend that America is as bigoted as it was in the 1930s is a Mr. Fantastic level stretch. But in order to keep work, you have to invent problems. We also find that the ESG is probably to blame for all of this. If you keep up with video games and anime, you may have heard recently that Japan completely left the ESG, removing around $4.5 billion because they're kind of fed up with the DEI. And their country still has some measure of sanity. But with all the cash flowing into the ESG, $4.5 billion is a drop in the bucket. It's next to nothing, actually. Already looking at this is fairly depressing for me.
Ever notice when they release these games that are really, really inclusive for the LGBTQ community in other countries that aren't as receptive? All of the pride flags and gay missions are cut from the content. Curious. Almost as if they don't mean what they say.
Environmental, climate change, energy, fuel, environmental compliance, greenhouse gas emissions, blah, blah, blah.
You know why you've been hearing a lot about electric cars? ESG.
Governance.
Notice how stupid things are getting? ESG. Can't get into it, YouTube.
Stop him! Social, diversity and equity.
You've been hearing a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI.
employee relations, environmental justice, health and safety, human rights, non-discrimination, security, training, and education. When you choose ESG investing, you're putting your money to work in companies that strive to make the world a better place. This type of ethical investment strategy helps people align investment choices with personal values. ESG investors aim to buy shares of companies that have demonstrated a willingness to improve their platforms in these 3 areas.
Sounds all well and dandy, by the way. You know this is about money. Strives to make the world a better place. Judging by gaming standards of today, everything is a bloated mess, way over budget, while LARPing about giving a damn about anything other than public perception and turning a profit. The biggest investors of the ESG, you might wonder, well, you guessed it, BlackRock and Vanguard, the 2 companies that so lovingly bought up American homes during the pandemic so that normal people were priced out of the market due to the rapid inflation rates because they cared so much and wanted to make sure the world was a better place by turning as many people as possible in the future into renters. Remember that. Many of these game companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, own at least 5 to 10% in stock in. We're talking of billions of dollars are invested in each of these. Here are 2 examples. I picked them at random. EA and Blizzard, since they are both pretty lame game developers that make trash, and they also pander like there's no tomorrow, like they care about people while making trash and overworking their employees like their dogs. If you look at Blizzard, here's their breakdown. Vanguard number 1, BlackRock number 2. If you look at EA shares, BlackRock is number 1, Vanguard is number 2, damn near almost identical amounts of shares. They have $3 billion in each. Basically, the long and the short of it is BlackRock and Vanguard are huge into ESG investing, or should I call it sustainable investing. If you look at Blizzard's ESG reports, you get the picture very quickly. I saw the phrase DIE so much my eyes started to wander in my head like I was King Cobra JFS. I mean, look at this dude. This one, I didn't even have to scroll far before I found this one. This is 2022, right?
Connecting diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DIE, across everything we do. We believe that our employees and players around the world deserve to be seen, heard, and feel valued. To help advance this goal, we are announcing the addition of Christine Hines, an Activision Blizzard's first Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, April 2022. She has helped us continue to prioritize our commitment to the DEI, reframe how we think about the DEI, and embrace the DEI in everything we do as an organization to provide more transparency to our progress. We recently published our 2022 DEI Look Back, which outlined the DEI purpose, wins, and plans the future.
Do you see what I'm saying? How often you see DEI? It's actually it's almost repetitive, like a mantra.
I'm excited to be part of a company that is committed to the DE and I and making progress on the ambitious goals in an industry with historical underrepresentation. I'm looking forward to leading the company's efforts to build a workplace that values transparency, equality, and inclusion. Gaming connections communities around the world and showcase here heroes from all backgrounds. I value playing a part in expanding the leadership and talent to create these compelling experiences and bring them to a broad base of players.
It's these made-up BS positions women get 95% of the time. Thanks to the ESG, Overwatch is an absolute pandering garbage and no longer a competitive team-based shooter. The Overwatch League is pretty much dead. And let's be real here. Can you look me in the face and say that Blizzard has gotten better since they got a DEI manager? No. In fact, it's worse. Call of Duty's worse. It's a goddamn copy pasta. Blizzard just rolled out another one of its greedy new ideas, where it begins charging $30 for class-restricted Diablo 5 Portal colors. How does this broaden and include people? The ESG feels like a big Ponzi scheme to me. All this talk of making the world a better place, and it's funded by 2 companies that specialize in taking advantage of the housing market and screwing the average American. And I highly doubt games like Suicide Squad, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Diablo 4, etc. that sell tons of trash, monetization, gimmicks, and mechanics is a sign of improving society and gaming. I wouldn't be surprised if the ESG was against this, but guess what? They won't do anything about it because it makes money. But what do I know? So there you have it, a better idea as to what is going on and why, and no clue on how to stop it. Welcome to the 2020s. It's going to suck.